episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. So, again, a very pleasant good evening to you, wherever you're joining us from. It is wonderful to be back with you. So, Lambi, I'm now here in the intro of the music, so I'm going to wait. Yes, so it is wonderful to be with you for another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. Wherever you're joining us from, remember this is your number one program, our number one program for featuring the people, the organizations, and the new and ongoing projects which are geared towards moving Dominica forward, especially as it relates to securing financial opportunities for our brothers and sisters at home in Dominica and around the world. We continue to work to advance Dominica and to identify what role each one of us can play with this mission. You know, as the world continues to change and evolve, we look at the changes we should be taking advantage of, and we also look at what changes we need to make in order to move our country forward. So it is wonderful to be here with you. I always look forward to being in your company every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. We all know that we face many, many battles in Dominica. But here on Roots Connections, we especially recognize that in order to effect the change we are seeking, Dominicans must be financially independent so that they can be free to make other important and independent decisions, including electing their government. So, again, wherever you're joining us from, welcome to Roots Connections. This is episode number 66 for today, March 13th, 2024, and I am your host, Simone Matthew. Today, we are exploring a topic which I know is always on the minds of Dominicans and friends of Dominica at home and abroad. And that is what current and future changes are needed to rebuild Dominica. So today we are joined by an organization which is on the front line of answering this question. We are joined by Rebuild Dominica, Inc., an organization out there in the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area, and they will tell us the various approaches they are taking to advance Dominica. We are very privileged, and we can tell that this organization is very committed to Dominica because we are joined by the president, the vice president, and the former president. So we can tell there is a passion for what they do. So we are very privileged to be joined by Mrs. LaDana Young Drigo. She is the president of Rebuild Dominica, Inc. We are joined by Mr. Reginald Vigilant, the vice president, and we are also joined by Mr. Gabriel Christian, the former president, who now serves as the legal officer and the board member. So again, we want to welcome them to the program. But before we get started, we always have to remember to pray for our country, Dominica, and all the challenges and battles we continue to face in so many areas. So let's go ahead and give a warm Roots Connections welcome to our guests as we thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here. Please unmute your mic. Of course, we're going to start with the president of this organization. So LaDana, unmute your mic and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, this is LaDana Young Drigo, and I was the former chairperson for Rebuild Dominica. I was born in Roseau at what was formerly known as the Princess Margaret Hospital, raised in Guadeloupe. My mother actually immigrated there when I was a baby, and North Carolina. My professional background is that of a public relations consultant specializing in project management and user experience design. My role, as I mentioned, I was the chairperson. I came on board a couple of months after Tropical Storm Erica, and I learned about the whole Rebuild Dominica Inc. And at that time, it was just forming. Met some of the founders. Found out that Mr. Gabriel Christian, he's one of the founding members, along with Mr. Reginald Vigilant, that he knew my father, and they, fought in the struggle, for Dominica independence way back when I was a twinkle probably in my father's eye. So that's a little bit just about me.
Yes, thank you so much. And let's go over to Reginald. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Simone, for having us all on your program. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to those who are listening and watching via whatever media they're using. Yes, my name is Reginald Vigilant. I was born in Casibus. Uh, Grew up in Dominica, went to grammar school for a little bit. I got to third form, and then when after Hurricane David struck Dominica, my parents decided to uh, relocate my siblings and I to St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, where I continue my high school and undergrad degree there at the University of the Virgin Islands. Then moved to Virginia, Northern Virginia, where I live in the Washington D.C. area. I own a technology company there called Omni Systems, and we're our primary customer there is the U.S. federal government. We do uh, pretty much throughout the IT technology gamut. We've done it all, primarily more in the digital transformation space and cybersecurity. I would say is where we thrive and do most of our work. When Gabriel called me after there was I can't remember the name of the storm that hit Dominica. Might have been Erica, right?
Yeah, I think
Was it
so.
Erica?
Yes.
Okay. And the devastation that happened in Dominica and the cry for help and from all the people in Dominica, we thought that we knew we had to do something. And at the end of it all, when the help was given and stuff, we realized, well, we should not just stop there. At the end of it, once everything calmed down, this needs to continue because Dominica needs the help of some of those of us who can help and those of us who have a different vision than what is currently happening there. And so we maintained the organization. We have expanded and added some new members, new minds, new thoughts, and those sort of things. And we are poised and ready to take it to the next level and see what we can do to help our beloved country, you know.
Yes, wonderful
Thank
having
you.
you there here. And Gabriel, let me come over to you. And I want to personally thank you because it's through you I got to know about Rebuild Dominica. So, Gabriel, welcome to the program. You're someone who needs very little introduction, but I will have you share some introductory comments.
Well, a blessed good evening to you, Dr. Matthew. I'll do my best to push past 10, or is it push past 20?
Well, we're on 30 now.
For those of you who don't know, Dr. Matthew is a distinguished author and an inspirational leader. I want to give a shout out to our brother Lambert, who keeps us in good stead at Mass Control, and the owner of Q95, Mr. Gregoire, and the staff. I want to give a heartfelt thank you to our sister, our new president. Welcome, Madam President, our chair, and our fearless Vice President, Reginald Vigilant. Well, it's funny about the Reginald Austria thing, Reggie. Reggie, I think we're all related. Those Castle Bruce people, aren't we, Reggie?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know in Dominica, Reginald Vigilant is related to me, as is Reginald Austria. So hence the little slip. I want to say a few things about civic duty because at this moment, I want to say that I was born in Goodwill, like LaDana, at the Princess Margaret Hospital. But as she said, I've been involved as a Cub Scout, cadet, student movement, youth movement. And that's when I met her father. And her father is a paratrooper, retired sergeant in the 82nd Airborne in North Carolina. And she tells me the story that when she says, I met this gentleman in Washington and they're doing work for Dominica. And she says, he asked her, who's that guy? He says, Gabriel. He says, Gabriel's a good guy. Let's go ahead. And LaDana was a fearless, tireless, relentless worker. As with Reggie is very humble. He doesn't tell you that it's his company at no cost to us. For almost a decade, it has maintained the website that we now have. I want to remember this moment, Pastor St. Clair Mitchell. of Evangelist Assembly Church, Pastor St. Clair's in Portsmouth. And it was Pastor St. Clair who allowed us to use his church, Evangelist Assembly, to form Rebuild Dominica. It's a church out in suburban Maryland. The insurance broker, Cecil Lockhart, Dr. Clayton Shillingford of the Dominican Academy, Eric Reed of Spag and Roll of Chocolates, who milled the Dominican chocolate bar Chocolat de la Dominique, and we donated the entire batch to the relief effort. Dave Winston, our treasurer, who's been with us forever, went to the SMA in the 1960s and 70s, who has maintained our account, and now we have a decent sum of money. I remember at this point in time, Mel Tawahadi of the Ethiopian Crown Council, led by Prince Umia Selassie Haile Selassie, who came forward with $10,000, a non-Dominican from Ethiopia, to assist us in the biggest medical supplies project, arguably by a diaspora organization, 1.2 million EC dollars in 2018 after Maria. And so, we remember folks on the island like Dr. Davidson Lloyd, Errol Emanuel, who worked with Dr. Julius Garvey, Adrian Banis, for instance, on the breadfruit project, where we brought breadfruit in from Dominica. So we've worked not only in relief effort in way of medical supplies, food and clothing, but we've worked in the area of agriculture development, industry in way of the chocolate milling, partnering with the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, where we facilitated an MOU with the State College, where they brought down 2 scientists to the DGS. And so all of those things represent our effort to not simply build structures in way of material structures, but build a new Dominican civic consciousness. We need to be civic minded. We need to move away from the sort of vile partisanship that cripples a nation to one where we can work together in the spirit of cooperative effort. So we are thankful for you to have us on this program. As I move to another phase as someone on the board and still doing my little part, I just want to ask God's blessings on our new leadership, that it shall be successful and that more Dominicans can come forward and join with us to rebuild Dominica, not only physically, but spiritually as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. And I want to come to you, LaDana. I'm sorry, my apologies for mispronouncing your name in the beginning, but I want to come to you to talk about the vision, mission, and goals of the organization. But before we do so, let us just remind everyone that's listening on Q95 that you can join us on Facebook and YouTube. We are live on Q95 FM radio, as well as Q95 FM radio on YouTube. And we're also live on Facebook at Push Past 10 as well. So don't forget, share the link, share the live, let everyone know that we're here. We remain grateful to, of course, you, Lambi. Thank you for always being there to take the calls at the end of the program. We're grateful to Mr. G, the Q95 family, for allowing us the opportunity to be here, to tap into the human resources of our Dominican experts and begin reversing the brain drain that has consumed the Caribbean region for so long, because now, thanks to technology, our experts are able to contribute no matter what part of the world they currently reside in. So tonight, what I thought we could do, we're going to begin our conversation by exploring your organization, Rebuild Dominica. But what I would also like us to do towards the end of the program is to have our callers, our Facebook audience, contribute to the conversation and share their thoughts as well in terms of what is needed to rebuild Dominica. So LaDana, let me come to you and just tell us a little bit more about the organization in terms of its vision, its mission, its goals, what you guys are aiming to accomplish with this organization.
Yes, thank you so much. And as Mr. Gabriel Christian, our president, put it very well, and also Mr. Reginald Vigilant mentioned, we came together and our mission was to provide recovery and construction assistance to our native island of Dominica after Tropical Storm Erica. Now, shortly thereafter, we had Hurricane Maria, which caused further devastation in Dominica. And a lot of us remember the amount of destruction that Tropical Storm Erica caused. I did some research just to try to get a number on it, and it's about 1.3 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars, 483 million US dollars worth of damage. So that really set us back, right? And then in regards to what we're doing to move forward, what we're looking at is partnerships. So that's our vision. We're not trying to be the end all be all. We just want to be sure that we do our part wherever we can. And what we've been doing as far as the last couple of years is, just to put put it lightly, because it's a lot that we've done behind the scenes. We're not braggadocious, but this is the platform right now for us to share what we're doing. So we're going to do so. As far as partnerships, we've been steadfast in forming and sustaining long-term partnerships. What do I mean by that? The Caribbean Agricultural Network. They'll just briefly speaking, and Mr. Christian could give you more details on that. But the Cocoa Rehabilitation Project, excuse me, I got tongue tied. We've partnered with the Caribbean Disaster Relief and Recovery Alliance, CDRRA. That particular alliance was formed right around Tropical Storm Erica, and we have people that are not even Dominican natives or people that never lived in Dominica. They just have a love for the country. They have a love for the people, and they have been forefront in helping us get the word out. For example, Carib Nation TV, which is a network station in the DC area, Larry Sindus and the host, Doris Deanne, they brought the Rebuild Dominica relief efforts to a global audience. So we're not just doing things behind the scenes. We are definitely trying to partner with people. Another very solid partnership that we have is the Global Breadfruit Institute. And a lot of people may not know that the Breadfruit Project actually caused a donation of 1,500 advanced breadfruit cultivars. And I did a little bit of research about that because I'm not a farmer by any means, but a cultivar is the advanced cultivar type that was sent to Dominica. It allowed fast bearing and fruit within 2 to 3 years compared to the standard 3 to 5 years. So that's in of itself. After going through Tropical Storm Erica, we were able to have, and I have to look up the name of the gentleman. He actually has a chip, and he has breadfruit chips. He has other
Yeah,
chips.
Adrian Banis. I know him well.
Exactly. And so you have to think about the long-term effects. And I think for me personally, where my view of Rebuild Dominica is the long game. We're again not trying to be everything for everyone. We know that things that are supposed to happen and things that are good for our country will take time. So in addition to that, I just want to take a moment to give a kind of a big up to Infinity Wealth Management. Mr. Christian mentioned Melty Wahade. Melty Wahade is truly our knight in shining armor. He put us in touch with Project Cure. That's a nonprofit that provides medical supplies and equipment. I believe it's non-mechanical medical supplies and equipment. But we sent a container of medical supplies and equipment that was delivered, I believe, in December of 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that was just one of the things that we did. This container was over $1 billion EC worth of medical supplies and equipment that Rebuild Dominica donated, and that the law offices of Gabriel Christian and also Infinity Wealth Management, with assistance from the Crown Council of Ethiopia, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, were able to pay for that passage of that container to come to Dominica. This right there is a testament of the love that we have for our country. We live in the diaspora, but we breathe Dominica.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we want to explore that more. So thank you, LaDana. So Reggie and Gabriel, let me come over to you guys and just tell us more about the importance of these partnerships. What are some of the fruit, if I may, that we're hoping to bear from some of the partnerships that you guys are involved in? Reggie, I'll start with you.
What we're hoping for some of these partnerships, someone like myself who is into technology, is to bring more technology into Dominica. Our young people, as they're growing and they're becoming into manhood, womanhood, they need to be able to access some of the things and use some of the tools that the rest of the world, like we have in the United States right now, that's just all over the place, and we don't even really pay much attention to. To them, that's critical. The world is becoming a digital world, and we want everybody to, wherever they live, especially our beloved Dominica, to be part of that digital transformation at the whole, and not only using the tools, okay, but contributing to that transformation itself, where they're building it, they're understanding technology, they get into artificial intelligence, they're making things, and that can in turn benefit Dominicans and the rest of the world.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you. Gabriel?
Thank you, Sister Simone. I just want to echo Sister LaDana and Brother Reggie and add a few things. Brother Reggie is very humble, as is Sister LaDana, but they don't maybe mention enough that what brought us together, the glue that holds us together, is not only love of country, but a understanding that networking works. That is something that we have to emulate from other ethnic groups.
Yes.
The Chinese, the Jews, the Indians, what do? Okay? They emulate each other. And because of the history of colonialism and slavery, we often have this, me, myself, and I alone. That doesn't work. We have to build a team to catch the dream. And team really stands for T, together, E, everyone, A, achieves, M, more. Together, everyone achieves more. Team. So this whole idea of one-man band and one-man government and one-party state, those things don't work. We have to see each other as a family. So if you are a scientist at the University of Michigan, for instance, and you're doing great work in biotechnology, don't forget the school from whence you came, the convent high school, for instance. And don't just look at the convent high school. Let's look at the other high schools and use Zoom protocol to do a symposium to tell young boys and girls in Dominica about your PhD in biotechnology and how you came to that place and the steps that you took to get there, so they can pattern themselves in their approach to career on what you successfully accomplished. Because when I was at high school, we never had one graduate from outside the school come to us and tell us how to get to college. Not one. The only person I remember coming to us from outside was an insurance broker by the name of Curtis Tong. And when I meet the gentleman, I always remind him I was 11 years old, and he came to a class at the grammar school, and he said, "Believe you me." And I'd never heard that said before. People said, "Believe me," but he had a very elegant way of speaking. But I remembered that this man came to our school, and he told us about insurance. I can't remember what he said about insurance, other than I remember him coming to a class to share some of his knowledge. And so to me, Rebuild Dominica represents that civic duty. It also represents that desire to network our people for success.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned Mr. Curtis Tong, because his son Robert Tong is on the Facebook Live. So Robbie, good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. We have a lot to cover. We talked about so far networking and the options for technology and symposiums, but I kind of want to stay on what the organization does for just a bit longer. So tell us about, and the panel, the discussion is open to the panel at this point. Just tell us about some of the other initiatives you're involved with. Fundraising, what else is the organization involved in?
So I can speak to that. So I do appreciate fundraising. I think for me, though, the putting my PR hat on, it's about awareness. When you're asking people to donate, if they don't believe in what you're doing, if they don't believe that you're going to use the funds for what they're meant to do, it's going to be pretty hard to get money from anybody. Now, once they know what you're about and you have the awareness out there, and that's what we've been doing throughout the years, is building the awareness. And through that, we've been able to do some additional items. I know Mr. Reginald Vigilant, I want to call you Reggie so bad. Reginald Vigilant talked about, the technology aspect and the learning aspect. And a couple of things that we've done. I want to give, again, big ups to our former president, because he's done a lot. He talks about humility between us. I think it's probably a trend. I think we're a tribe of humility birds or something.
It's a Dominica thing.
I don't know.
We don't brag and boast.
I have no idea, but I really, really applaud him. Just to give you an idea. because you want meat and potatoes.
Yes.
The University of Maryland Eastern Shore has a program, and as I understand it, it's through a collaboration with the Dominica State College, a partnership through which Dominican students have the opportunity to enroll in a number of programs at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore in Maryland, United States. And Gabriel Christian was instrumental in actually working with Dr. Peters and the UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore administration, to facilitate that agreement. This has been in place for some years. And the other thing that we're working on right now, we introduced it last year. It's a boarding school that's in Mississippi called the Piney Wood School. And that program was first offered last year to students from Dominica to fill out an application that was available on our website, rebuilddominica.org, right? That school's boarding school tuition between cost of room and board is on a sliding scale of between 30,000 US to 40,000 US for the year. We offered a scholarship for one student last year. Now, with the fact that we had just introduced the program, we did not get that many applications in. And then the applicant that we had to actually postpone that. And we're gearing up to release some more information on our website this month. And we have Mr. Christian, correct me if I have Simeon's last name is Joseph, right?
Simeon Joseph, yeah.
Right. We have him on board now so that we're getting this information disseminated to the principals in Dominica so that we can help 2 students this year. Now, the law offices of Gabriel Christian and Rebuild Dominica have already paid, if I understand it, a sum of money to ensure that Piney Wood Schools knows that we're serious.
That's right.
So there's not a free ride. There's a lot of people that have been putting up their own money from their own pockets. And with this scholarship that we're about to introduce, we're going to have 2 students. I believe it's going to be this year. We're doing 1 student in the Roseau area and 1 student outside of Roseau to kind of make it a bit more fair, because we have some rural students that may not have access. And if you think about this is a chance for a student in Dominica to be able to come to the US. Of course, there's going to be international student visas involved, but what school is not going to ask that? America doesn't just open its doors without you having a visa. So we know that that's something that you have to do. But think about it, 30,000 to 40,000 US dollars worth of education. Your child is in the US, and it's because of the efforts of the founders, such as Gabriel Christian. So you can't really put a value on that, because I know I have cousins that would sell. I don't know what they would sell, but they would sell for an opportunity like this. Okay. For them to just be able to come to the US and have that opportunity to step outside of Dominica, not just saying they took a boat to go to Guadeloupe. That's great. Not saying you took a boat to go to St. Lucia or took a plane. You're actually coming to the US for an education, and you're getting that experience. You're being immersed in that. And it is a boarding school. Now, only rich people. I've never been to a boarding school. My father's, I'm a military brat. My father did not have a crap ton of money, but I guarantee you, had this program been available, he would have been trying to put me in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Reggie, is there anything you wanted to add to the scholarship program? Yeah, I think you're muted.
No, I not much more. LaDana mentioned the boarding school. I have a 22-year-old daughter. Next month she's 22, and she went to boarding school. And I can tell you the transformation that came about from that experience. I would do it again. If I had the opportunity to do it again. It was money well spent, I think. It was a lot of money, but money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's great that Dominicans, have the opportunity, and any opportunity for education. I know that's what benefited me. And yes, LaDana, I keep trying to go back and forth, but I'll get it right. Yes, the visa application is absolutely required. I went through that process, and at the time back in the 90s, it wasn't terribly bad. I can't speak on it right now, but it wasn't terribly bad. Gabe, I want to come over to you for your thoughts, but I also think we have to spend some time talking about the importance of networking and the role of the diaspora. Because again, one of the reasons I enjoy doing this program, and I'm so grateful we have this platform, is that we see so much of the great work that our various Dominica associations are doing. And, I just like the idea that we get to put this information out there to raise the awareness, but also to say to our people, what role can you play? We have so many of these organizations out there that are doing tremendous work. Off the top of my head, I can think of Tampa Bay, Orlando. I can think of the tri-state area. So many various organizations doing this important work. But again, networking not only in terms of bringing people into your organization, but networking between the various organizations. So let's just spend some time talking about that and the role of the diaspora. Should there be a national policy on the role of the diaspora in Dominica? And Gabe, I see you smiling, so I know you agree with me. So let's take it away, Gabe.
Sister Simone Matthew, in 2001, December 7th, we had the largest gathering of Dominicans overseas for development in history at the Brooklyn Marriott. It was called the Dominica Diaspora in the Development Process. In fact, we were the ones who popularized the term. And at that time, it was not about coming home on a plane because we got a free ticket to vote in an election. It is about partnering with each other, holding hands with each other to build Dominica. We didn't have a disaster. I remember some names out of this. Matt Peltier was there. The engineer, Bevin Etienne, the engineer, Dexter Newton, the engineer, Paul Phillip, the engineer, Linton Scotland, physicians, dentists, Dr. Irvin Andre, the mathematician, robotic design engineer, Avenel James Christian, on and on, 1,500 people. We honored Donald Peterson that day. We honored the president of the University of New Orleans, who had signed an MOU the year before with Rosie Douglas in March of 2000. It was put on by the Rosie Douglas Foundation and the Dominica Academy of Arts and Sciences. And out of that came the Diaspora Policy Paper, which Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt at the Calabash restaurant on King George V Street asked myself, Thompson Fontaine, Dr. Shillingford, and Sampson. What was Sampson's name? He used to be the editor of the Chronicle, to put it together. And we did at no cost to the government of Dominica. And we're never going to thank you for it. And today people say diaspora in a derogatory way because the whole idea has been twisted. It was never about partisan politics or elections or electioneering. It was about Dominicans, no matter what party you belong to. Labor, Freedom, UWP is immaterial. We're all Dominicans, and when we're overseas, we have to join hands and work together for beloved island. And that requires networking. In this moment, I want to remember somebody whose name I didn't mention. When this storm took place, the commandant of the Cadet Corps, Major Francis Richards, and his wife, Daphne, were staying with us. And it was his wife who told me about the storm because I was at work and I didn't know it was going on. And he was very instrumental. And when we raised some of the early funds, the cadets in Dominica, for those who don't know, the cadets are like ROTC here. You know, it's high school paramilitary organization. I was a cadet, he was a cadet. They helped distribute some of the food that we sent and some of the supplies we sent. So we've worked with Dominican organizations on the ground, and we'd like to see what you talked about happen again. That is, first of all, the government and society embrace the diaspora policy paper, understand that there are thousands of Dominicans overseas, hundreds of them very skilled. So we don't have to depend on foreigners to build Dominica. Dominicans can build Dominica, like Chinese build China, like Germans build Germany, like Jews build Israel. Let Dominicans build Dominica. We can get help from friends, mind you. But first, charity begins at home. We have to help each other. I will conclude by saying that we are looking to do a summit where we can have all the diaspora organizations, maybe on the University of Maryland campus.
Oh, great.
So we can then, for those who can't come, they can be on Zoom. And for those who can't come, we can communion in one blessed love. As Bob Marley says, one love.
Yeah, and when are you potentially thinking of doing this?
Well, I'll tell you to a fearless president.
Oh, LaDana?
Yes. So yeah, this is something that we've had as far as we have a desire to do. I am they'll tell you I'm all about partnerships. I'm
Mm-hmm.
all about collaboration because wow, one way you could stretch a dollar is if everybody pitches in to get to that dollar. Um, the area that we are, as far as where we're based, is a very affluent area, an area with great opportunities. One of the reasons why we're considering doing a virtual summit is just for us to be able to be responsible in our spending. We will share more information in regards to that because it matters as far as getting the organizations together, figuring out a date, and then if we are able to do a venue so that some of the speakers can be in a physical location and then the others could be remote in or virtual. So please stay tuned for that. And I just wanted to make one correction. I did state
Yes.
that we had the Project Cure container of medical supplies and equipment. It was December 2017. So my apologies for that. I had the year off uh, by one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, and please keep me posted on that summit because I think that is one of my visions to see the organizations, the Dominica organizations, work together to move Dominica forward in important ways. But Reggie, let me come over to you. We started talking about technology and the important role of technology. Let's just explore that a little bit more because I think if we're talking about rebuilding Dominica, we also have to talk in terms of work, in terms of providing work to Dominicans in Dominica, but we all know the limitations of employment in Dominica. So let us talk about the role of technology. Your technology company potentially hiring, we have the brightest and smartest people in the Caribbean and the world, I might add. And just the possibilities for jobs in Dominica through technology.
Yeah, there is something that I have been exploring. I have been talking to a few of the larger organizations that do provide funding for different projects. So one I've been talking to quite recently is the Exim Bank of the USA, and I've engaged them in looking to start and some projects in Dominica where we can help with infrastructure, with training, with workforce development, for instance. And that is something that I think is lacking. Would like because ultimately what you want to do is you want to create a pipeline of persons who can perform that work and not just have you bring the talent, import the talent, and at the end of that they leave and you're left without it. So we want to be able, in the beginning, it may be difficult to have Dominicans, local Dominicans, to do some of this technology, but creating a pipeline is important. So you start perhaps in high school level or even before that, and you continue to foster that, and eventually they become the producers of the work themselves, and then ultimately reach back and grab someone, and that's what the kind of things I'd like to see happen and do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the importance of training education. I mean, I'm an online learning professor. I teach from anywhere in the world. So the ability of having our people trained and educated virtually so that they can attend any university. I attended Columbia University and I did it virtually. Right. So this is back in like 2003 when the technology wasn't even as pervasive as it was right now, because thanks to COVID, online learning education became more acceptable. But all the way back in 2003, I attended some of my classes virtually. So I think the opportunity is there. And we're going to talk about the role of various parts of Dominica, including the government. What role should the government be playing in terms of creating that enabling environment for education, training, and job opportunities as well? But I want you guys to share any other thoughts you would like to share on the organization, because then what I want to do is broaden the conversation and let's look at that word rebuild. Because the fact that we're talking about rebuilding Dominica means that at one point, Dominica was in a particular position, a position of success, a position of immense potential. And then something happened, which is the reason we're talking about rebuilding Dominica. So I want to hone in on that word rebuild. What are we trying to rebuild to? That is going to be the question that we're going to explore this evening. But I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share anything else you would like to share about the organization. We will be sure to post the website in the comments. But if you're listening on the radio, it is www.rebuilddominica. Is the INC at the end? Let me check the website. Rebuilddominica.org. So again, www.rebuilddominica.org is the website you want to visit. And I kind of just wanted to piggyback on some of the things we've already touched on. For example, that word diaspora being a negative connotation, right? Because it almost feels like, and that works against us. It almost feels like when you step into Dominica, the attitude that you receive is, well, you left. And I'm thinking to myself, I left to gain opportunity, and I left, and now I'm able to afford a mortgage in Dominica, which I would not have been able to do if I stayed in Dominica and was working the job I had at the time, right? I left, and now I'm able to pay different people in Dominica to work on property I have in Dominica. So I just want us to change that mindset, that negative connotation, which is associated with that word diaspora, to the point when I go to Dominica, and many people go to Dominica, they do not want to be referred to by that word.
Yeah.
Because it has become such a negative connotation. And the importance of collaboration, the importance of working together. There is just so much division in Dominica. And it is unfortunate and true that it is along political lines, to the point where people who have great ideas, great opportunities are not able to work together because of politics. So much to continue to explore on this topic. So at this point, I would like you to share any thoughts that you have, including anything we may have missed about the organization and just your thoughts in general.
If I may, thank you, Sister Matthew. Everything one does must be done honestly and with sincerity, without any desire for political or other advantage. Because if one is, for instance, most of what we've done, as LaDana said, most Dominicans do not know. Most Dominicans do not know, because we've made it the case that we, maybe if we were to speak too much about it, it may not happen. So we've worked in Dominica, in our own country, very quietly. Let me say two things about diaspora. But before I do that, let me take a moment to memorialize here this evening two great lovers of Dominica. Dr. McDonald Benjamin, PhD, University of California, Los Angeles, was the first person of African descent to get a PhD in U.S. history from that university in food technology, and wrote the textbook at the World Bank on project development in the developing world for food security. His son went to Oxford and got his PhD. McDonald Benjamin also became a World Bank executive. Dr. McDonald Benjamin devoted his entire remainder of his retirement to serve as our ambassador to the United States, free of charge. And at one point, they hosted the embassy out of their home so that the government of Dominica would not have to pay a penny in rent. His wife was German. You could not find a more patriotic Dominican. After her husband died, she served as our ambassador to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization and brought in millions of dollars for agriculture development. Every year, when she was even bedridden, Ambassador Benjamin would send money to be deposited in the Rebuild Dominica account. Now she's passed on. My wife, Joan, and I, a member of Rebuild Dominica as well, without whom we couldn't get a lot done. God bless her. We attended a funeral. We were one of 7 people. It was the middle of COVID, so only 7 people could come to the funeral. Her son and her daughter continue in that dutiful mission of their parents, and every year they donate to Rebuild Dominica. Her daughter, Alexandra, is on the board of Rebuild Dominica. She speaks Italian, French, German, and English, and she is a member of the Hollywood Screen Actors Guild. And she acted in many movies like Something at the Museum. You know, she's just an accomplished person. And during COVID-19 was part of the project where we provided PPE, personal protective equipment, to the police service, the nursing service, and the fire service. LaDana was one of the things she didn't mention. But there's so much we've done. And we've done it because of that sense of duty. So what we're asking our Dominican people to do is when you do duty for Dominica's development, don't do it in a partisan way. Do it honestly, do it sincerely, and that way we can get rid of the disparaging comments. Because all people need to understand, and I'll conclude by saying this. When I was a child in Dominica in the 60s, early 70s, at Christmas time, everybody was waiting for packages from that. At that time, it was from England, because that's where a lot of the Dominicans have gone. And so Dominica would be a much worse off country today because we have no agriculture now. We have no industry now, had it not been for the diaspora in the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States sending remittances to their family members at home. So Dominicans, understand where we are today, and the standard of living we have is as a result of Dominicans who infuse tens of millions into our economy every year. It's now noted as at least $375 million a year from the so-called diaspora that some folks, because of the misbehavior of some, have kind of disparaged. So I want us to understand the importance of that unity of purpose.
Yeah, and I'm also getting a note to ask you to talk about the Dominica Clinic, which opened in June of 2018.
Yes, Dr. Sam Christian, who attended Howard University, was a major in the U.S. Army. He opened that clinic while he was in Dominica, and he's not there right now, but we're asking for Dominican dentists and doctors and nurses who are at home to contact us, because all of us here, we volunteer our time. None of us are paid. We donate our time and resources, and in the spirit of partnership, we can only do for Dominica what Dominicans at home are willing to also do by sharing with us and joining hands with us, because we cannot do it on our own. We can only do it through partnership, and that's what got the clinic going. It was partnership, and we thank Dr. Dale Dangleman, who's also a trauma surgeon, who has been a strong supporter of Rebuild Dominica.
Yeah, Reggie, LaDana, anything you guys want to share before we broaden the conversation?
For myself, I have a dream. I'm having an MLK moment right here. I have a dream that we have some type of, and I don't know, please forgive me if there's already one, a ministry that is set up for the diaspora to connect with our people back home. And it would be great to have a list of organizations on a website where we know what's needed, what's available, and who to reach out to. That's my dream.
Yes, absolutely. Reggie, anything you'd like to add?
Just want to expand on what LaDana said. At least within the government, I would like to see what different ministries are doing, and how together we can collaborate, and with the diasporas and our different diaspora and all the different organizations like Rebuild Dominica that we have here in the U.S. mainland, coming together and working together to achieve this dream that LaDana has.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the same dream. Yeah, and I do believe there's a ministry that has diaspora relations in the name, but again, I haven't heard much in terms of what they're doing to bridge that gap between Dominicans at home and abroad, and you know, the contributions we can make and we continue to make, and to validate that Dominicans at overseas contribute, you know, like Gabriel said, of millions of dollars to the economy of Dominica. And we don't just contribute financially, but we find other ways to contribute in so many other ways. So I think it is important to acknowledge that. But if it's okay with you guys now, I would like to broaden the conversation just a little bit. So we talk about rebuilding Dominica, which means at one point in time, Dominica was in a better position. So let us kind of just look at the heyday of Dominica, when Dominica was in its prime, and what we are trying to rebuild towards. So Gabriel, I'd like to start with you on this one. So what are we rebuilding towards?
Thank you very much, Simone. First, we have to get back to baseline. When I grew up, we had factories. At my office, we have Bello marmalade, guava juice, passion fruit juice, lime juice, syrup, all those things. Pepper sauce, beer rum. Bello is gone. And we tried to invest in it. In fact, we did invest in it by buying several containers. And so those are like remnants. We've kept as samples to remind us of a time when we had Elrose and Company. Today, you can go to the shop here, the supermarket, you get Elrose juice, but it's made in Mexico because we've lost our lime industry. We've not had a good land planning program. So we decide to waste land on Dominica for airports we don't need. And we don't have a stock farm. We used to have a stock farm. Lambi would remember that. We would have cattle from all over the world. And we had a milkery at stock farm. It's now housing estates. We had a banana industry that doesn't exist anymore. You see? So we need to rebuild our agriculture, because this is a time when there are issues of food security. With global warming, food security is an issue. We have water, so we want to have a water industry that we can make saline solution, for instance. We can make vitamin-infused water. We can make sparkling water. When I was a child, we had 3 soft drink factories. We had Coca-Cola, we had 7-Up, we had Juicy, and there was also a 4th one in Pound. Lambi, you may remember that, KB Cola, right behind the Rosewood Mixed Infant School. In fact, I can tell the listeners what we used to do. At break, we'd go to the factory and we'd say, sir, rejects. What happened was, a sweet drink, they would bring the bottles back, and because this residue in there, little things like roaches and ants would go in there. And when they would clean the bottles out, sometimes it would be done well enough. And when they run the bottles through, there'd be little things dancing, little black whatever, remnants of maybe a insect leg or whatever. They'd put that aside as a reject. And we're like 6, 7, 8 years old, children in a state of nature, little barbarians, we didn't care. We'd go to the window and we'd ask for rejects, and we'd drink it through the edge of our shirt. We'd drink the soda through our shirt. The shirt was like a sieve, like a string. Right. And when you turn the shirt, you see little things, So look, I'm making this sort of, lighthearted, but we had industry. You'd see tractors going through Roseau with piled high with limes, piled high with oranges, piled high with grapefruits, right? So we have a time we remember when, they were
and coconuts.
Cocoa. Yes. Reggie, take it away, Reggie. Take it away. Take it away, Reggie.
No. I remembered all of those, as well. So
we want to rebuild to that.
Those are all gone.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We need to rebuild our industry, because if we don't, then we will lose our sense. You see, labor is not a party. Labor is the exertion of effort to produce wealth. Let me repeat. Labor and capital equates wealth. So if we can aggregate the capital of the diaspora, combine that with the labor that we can bring to the table, then we can create wealth in Dominica for Dominicans. Other than that, we're going to be pushed out of the economic mainstream, and we will not have our country. And that is what we're about. We're trying to rebuild our agriculture, rebuild our industry, and we're not talking about it, we're doing it.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everyone, we'll be taking your calls in about 5 minutes or so. So please get a pen and paper ready, so you can take down the phone numbers in about 5 minutes. So again, grab a pencil and paper so you can write down the phone numbers, so you can call in to make a contribution. So yes, industries, factories, all that is important, Gabriel. But I think also what we have to rebuild in Dominica is that sense of independence, right? That sense of, figuring out life yourself. Because I just remember growing up in Dominica, And I always think to myself, we had three ministries when I grew up, right? So we had the Ministry of Internal Affairs, that was my mom who held down the household. We had the Ministry of External Affairs, right? Which was my aunt who was sending barrels. And we had the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which was my other aunt in New York, who would send money to take care of us. And together we came together as a family to support our own. But more and more, what we're finding in Dominica is that there is this, I just call it a begging mentality, where people are comfortable with simply begging to sustain their lives. And I think that is the greatest challenge that we face in Dominica. So, how do we rebuild that psyche? How do we rebuild that work ethic, which is the reason why most of us in the diaspora are very successful? Because we came from nothing, we were poor, but we knew how to work and we knew how to sacrifice. So, Reg, you have any thoughts on that?
Good morning. Um, when I was growing up, I knew that some things I did not want to remain as they are, or I did not want to be that. At the age of 15, you were out of school if you did not pass the common entrance and go to one of the schools. Now we only have so many schools in Dominica. There are several pupils who started the common entrance, passed it, okay, but could not go to school because their parents did not have the resources to send them to school. And those minds and sharp minds that they were they left to do nothing. They became farmers. They become bricklayers. They become, but the intellectuals that they were, that halted at the age of 15. So growing up, I knew I did not, and I was fortunate. My uncle, who was, if you remember, Dr. Colmore Christian.
Oh, that's my cousin's husband. Interesting.
Okay, yeah, he's my uncle. He former grammar school graduate. It might be SMA. One of them. I think it's grammar school. Because my other uncle went to SMA, and he was able to take my sister and I in from Castlebush to live with him in Roseau, and where we went to high school there, and so I knew that was never enough for me, and that was that internal drive, that that fire in the belly that you want to just achieve. I was reading. Remember, he used to subscribe to Time magazine during the Vietnam War. And I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, and there was a stack of magazines right there. And I was reading Time magazines, at the age of 3, 4, So, so that has to come from within, and you need, and we not. That's when I mentioned earlier about we need to build a workforce with the younger persons. That's what we need to do, because the elders now, it's going to be hard to get them to now want to feel that kind of urge to go back and become part of the workforce, because they've gone beyond that. So we need to look at the younger persons and build a workforce development, training, and that sort of thing, and get them to. And we need all sorts of workers. They don't always have to be technology. We need everything. As Gabe mentioned, Dominica has some of the richest soil, and the agribusiness in Dominica can thrive. And what you've seen going on in South America, where everyone is buying, the US and Europe are buying their produce from those countries, we can be that again. We have what it is, and naturally, organically. It doesn't have to be, some of those that those GMO modified products that you see sometimes. That's not good for us. And so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we still have a lot to discuss. We have so much more to discuss, but we have to go to the studio to invite our callers, and we're going to go to Facebook. But again, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Youth Enterprise Program, youth camp environment. We have so much more to cover. But if, again, you joined us late. This is Roots Connections on Q95, and we're talking about what current and future changes are needed to rebuild Dominica. And we are joined by Rebuild Dominica Inc., and they're telling us various approaches they're taking to advance Dominica. We have the president of the organization, Mrs. LaDana Young, and we have the vice president, Mr. Reginald Vigilant, as well as the former president, Mr. Gabriel Christian, who is now the legal officers and the board members. So guys, listen for any comments as the calls are coming in, and I'm going to read the Facebook notes. So listen to any comments you would like to comment on. That's to the panelists when we come back. So Lambi, over to you.
Roots Connection and Q. The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Those are all local numbers. And the overseas number, 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers one more time. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, 305-432-9624. Back to you, Simone.
Yes, thank you. And so we want to say good evening to our Facebook viewers. Alyssa Irish, always locked in. Thank you for being here. Vincent Warrington is watching from California. Carl Kofi James, always nice to have you on board. He says, blessings, my boy Gable, I think he meant to say. David Joseph, greetings and good night to each and everyone. Special greetings to the host and panelists. Bernadette Wilkinson is here. Addison Baptist, always great to have you on board. Khalid Elastic, peace and blessings from Chicago by way of Grand Portsmouth, Dominica. Tina Bell, always great to see you. Owen Prosper, good evening, patriotic family. I'm locked as always. Jennifer Cuffey, good night. Jacksonville, Florida is locked in. Petra Carbon George says, we need to find a way to bring back our human capital from overseas, which specializes in different industries. Great point, Petra. Anthony Simon, dependency instead of independence is what we are facing at present. So guys, thank you for being here. And I think we have a call, so let's take the call.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us. Please go ahead with your call.
Yes, good evening. This is Alessandra Benjamin. I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Hi.
Hi, how's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing well. Thank you for calling.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, I just wanted to express my support for Rebuild Dominica and all the wonderful endeavors that they have accomplished. It started off after the hurricane as a fundraiser to, rebuild Dominica, and it's just like, growing wings and helping the community in so many different aspects, be it from education to agriculture. And prior, it was under the leadership of Gabriel Christian, and now LaDana is the president of Rebuild Dominica. And I just wanted to call in and express my support for all the wonderful work that they're doing for the community in Dominica and helping, the disadvantaged people as well. So promoting the agriculture of the country, the beauty of the country, and the education of the country. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Alexandria. We want to thank you for your leadership as well, and your mother before you and your father before that.
Thank you.
Well, Dominica is just such a beautiful country, and I think with people that really care about Dominica, with the right leadership, it can really be at the forefront of the Caribbean nations, you know, really making a staple for itself in the world. And that's why I find it very important that I support your work and also the legacy of my father, who was a Dominican. And on behalf of my brother and myself, we thank you, and we shall continue to, you know, be there as a beacon of light to support everybody.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
support. We truly appreciate it.
God bless you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
yes. Thank you for that call. Yes, so if we don't have any calls coming in right now, let's continue with the conversation. So yes, so the other aspect I think we need to explore is what are the elements, right? What are the elements that we need to rebuild in Dominica? So we already talked about several of them, but I also want to talk about the role of the government. What role can the government play in terms of the work that Rebuild Dominica is doing? We talk about the need for a national policy in terms of the diaspora and local Dominicans working together. But is there anything else we can think about in terms of the role of the government? Or is the problem the government standing in the way of rebuilding Dominica? So Gabriel, let me come over to you for that one.
Well, first of all, appoint honest Dominicans and not foreign crooks as ambassadors. That's number one. I'm sorry to say. For instance, we have an ambassador running around here called Paolo Zampoli. He's an Italian. He doesn't care about Dominica. He doesn't know Dominica. We have Dominicans who are intelligent, who are honest, like Reginald Vigilant, like LaDana Drago, who could do what is needed 10,000 times better at no charge, or maybe just a nominal charge. So let's be serious. We have no diplomatic corps to speak of. It's wretched and it's disappointing. I'm sorry to say that, but we need honest government. We need government that respects Dominicans. Dominicans are smart people. We know that. Look at you, Dr. Matthew. Look at Reggie. Reggie doesn't want to tell you what he does. But Reggie's firm does work for major federal government agencies. He's a certified federal government contractor in very sensitive areas. I can't say more than that, but he knows what I'm talking about. And we've worked with this prime minister, and he's been to our office, and Reggie was there, or the Secret Service. So Dominicans need to know that it's not true that we've not done our utmost to reach out. Just recently, we spoke to the former State College president, and we brought him to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We do our utmost, despite the fact that we've made criticism. Dominica is our country. So if there's a disaster, we don't care whether the government has made mistakes. We still do our duty to Dominica because it's our country that we love. And the first time I had a few pennies, I returned to Dominica 20 years ago. And the first home I ever built was in Dominica. You know, so that's what we mean. We want cooperation from Dominicans on the street level, on the village level, on the national government level. We need cooperation from our institutions. And civil servants must understand that they serve the country, not the political party. Political parties come and go, Dominica remains. So we must learn that sense of patriotic duty. And I want to just add one thing, and I'll conclude, and that is, on the last day I spent before coming to college, I ran up to the stock farm to see the cattle for one last time. So all through grammar school, even when I was teaching, we had cattle. I used to have to go and get zebgua, right? Even if we're in Goodwill, we had cattle, we had chickens, we had rabbits, we had goat, we had sheep. So young Dominicans need to learn to work. Mm-hmm. You made a very sad reference to the beggar mentality, this idea of people waiting for their member of parliament to give them a cool out. We need to do a youth enterprise program, and we intend to do one where young people, boys and girls, can have school gardens. We'll get the animals in, we'll get the support funding in, so they can learn to take care of animals, they can learn to grow their own food. That's what we intend for Dominica, and that way we can build back a culture of productivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, we talk about building various industries. So I want to come over to you, Reggie, so we can talk about the important role of the knowledge industry, right? What is the role of the knowledge industry and everything that we are talking about? But before we do, let me just go ahead. I wanted to read the executive summary of Rebuild Dominica Inc. because I think it sums up what we are talking about very nicely. So let me read that. So the executive summary, and again, the website is www.rebuilddominica.org. So it says, Rebuild Dominica Inc. is committed to the principle that every day is the national day. The founders and supporters of Rebuild Dominica are dedicated to regaining the independence, pride, dignity, honor, and self respect that comes with true nationhood. We seek a disciplined and productive nation in the way of agriculture, industry, science, technology, and recovery from natural and man made disasters and the preservation of our proud heritage. So, that is just a snippet of the summary on your website. I thought that we would mention that because I think it kind of summarizes very nicely what your organization is all about. But yes, Reggie, over to you. The role of the knowledge industry. How do we build Dominica through the knowledge industry? Because we have so many different industries we can explore. We talked about agriculture. We also know the important role of the cultural industry. So the music, the food, the cuisine, the selling our fashion. All these are important, but I know that you're in technology. So the role of the knowledge industry.
Technology is no different to agriculture or any of the others. Just another pillar that we need to create. Outside of the politics of it, we need a combination of government and private industries to collaborate to do this. Government cannot do it on its own because it does not have the expertise and the knowledge on how to do some of it. And so bringing private industries who know how to do this thing, who've done it throughout their careers and create something out of it and to help with that. That's what I think public-private partnership is the kind of things I think we need.
Yes, go ahead.
We need to have. Yes, we need to figure a way to create it. Get government more involved with private industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing we want to look at as well, we kind of alluded to that earlier, but an initiative towards engaging the youth in Rebuild Dominica. LaDana, can you hear me?
I apologize. Could you repeat the question? I'm not sure if my connection is causing.
Yeah, Simone is frozen.
Okay, because
can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay, now
believe
you're back.
it was maybe my connection, but I wasn't hearing your question. You were
Yeah, I think
frozen.
my connection might be a little bit unstable, but you got the question?
No, I just you said it twice.
Let's try it one more time. The role of the youth. Is there a role for the youth in your organization?
Yeah, so of course, yes. In regards to conversations that we had with our first board meeting earlier this year, we were reaching out to a couple of members that have younger adults in their household and calling for some volunteers because we are looking to have more youth on island so that we can know what the need is. We can't speak for the youth; we need them to speak for themselves. And, right now we don't have a lot of young members. We would like to see that in the future. But we want to first find out what they are needing directly. We can speak about technology, we can speak about agriculture, but I would like to hear from their mouths what it is that they're looking for, what help they need, what avenues. Because I suspect what they need the most is what I needed the most as a young adult is mentorship. There's so much you can do, but if you teach a man to fish, if you actually teach a man to fish, they can eat forever. They can eat for their lifetime. So that's our mentality. We give of our time and we listen to one another. There's no one in our organization that has higher ranking. We just have titles for the sake of having titles. We all learn from each other, and we are open to learning from the younger people in Dominica, to find out from them what they're needing, not to have their parents speak for them, because that's what I've honestly on my end. I can't speak for anyone else, but that's the trend that I'm seeing. We're hearing from the adults what the youth are needing, but we're not hearing it from the youth. And I know that they're in their youth, they don't know exactly what it is that they truly need, but if they can articulate what they think they need, we can bridge the gap based off of our experience, and try to figure who can mentor them or who can we connect them with. Because again, we're about partnership. We're not trying to be the end all be all. We don't have a $5 billion budget. So we are about connecting people. We are about connecting ourselves to different organizations so that we can say, this is a resource that's available and who needs that resource.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gabe, you mentioned that unless we build vocational skills, we will have a generation of lazy and incompetent people who are unable to engage in the 21st century economy. So tell us more about that, and also tell us more about the Londonderry Youth Camp environment, which needs to be rebuilt so we can have workforce development. So a lot we have to talk about, especially as it relates to our young people and engaging them and providing them with the skills. But as I always say, our young people learn from us. So
Indeed.
if we are not presenting ourselves in terms of being the work ethic, in terms of being independent, in terms of creating our own opportunities, then what the young people have to emulate is what we are showing them. So I think a lot of it, I never cast blame on young people. I say if they're at fault, yes, there are young people who grew up in great environments and they go astray, but the majority learn what they live and they live what they learn. So let's talk about more of the comments, Gabe.
Well, the first thing we did when we returned to Dominica, well, it started before in 2000 when Ruzi became prime minister. Ruzi was an old cadet, as was Per Charles. Was we invested a lot of time and money in revitalization, not revitalization, the resurrection of the Dominican Cadet Corps. The Cadet Corps had gone to sleep in 1978 after independence, but it was the oldest Dominican youth organization. It had started at the grammar school in 1910, and a lot of famous Dominicans had been cadets, like Alexandra Benjamin, whose father was the PhD. He was a cadet at the grammar school, and many, many others. So the Cadet Corps is like a youth leadership organization. And because we did not have a defense force anymore, they were trained by the police. And we also helped the police. We had a criminologist from Buffalo State University. He got his PhD from the University of Chicago, Dr. Peter St. Jean. He worked with the Dominica Academy, which also supported the cadet program. So we don't come from the perspective of just criticizing young people, but we try to use our time and resources to invest in them by putting them through a program that we had been familiar with. I started at the grammar school in sometime around September 1st or 2nd, 1972. On a Monday, I was in the Cadet Corps on the Thursday. Because as a child, the Cadet Corps was huge. When the band would play, we would all run around. You know who I remember as a cadet? The same Donald Peters. Mm-hmm. I was maybe about 6 or 7, and he was a cadet. And I remember him because he had a very peculiar profile. And a lot of other people, this gentleman, Willie Gregoire, the husband of the recently deceased Dr. Carissa Etienne, who was with PAHO, he was another person I remember as a cadet. Lennox Royer. So we went through that cadet program at the Londonderry Youth Camp. The Londonderry Youth Camp was an amazing facility between Wesley and Marigot. It was maybe over 200 acres or something like that. And they had a chicken farm, they had a pig farm, they had goats, sheep, cattle, and they had the gardens, and they had an automotive shop. And they were the first organization in the history of Dominica to record steel band music on a long playing record, an LP. The commandant of the camp was Major Earl Johnson, who was also the commandant of the Defense Force and the commandant of the Cadet Corps. So we would go there in the summer, and we would live in barracks. Those barracks were built by the camp members themselves. and we'd slip on bunks and so on, and we'd go parading through Margaret and Wesley and go into the river. So we're 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and we're having this nation building ethos instilled in us because the camp members who were there regularly during the school year were learning plumbing, carpentry, masonry, electrical engineering, and agriculture, welding, right? How to fix tractors, right? So many of those people today, when Major Johnson sent me his set of little box of memorabilia, I did an essay on that on Dominican News Online. And so many people were so happy to see that the camp was remembered. Today, we do not have a youth camp that teaches vocational skills. So a lot of our young people who otherwise could be trained and earning income for themselves are doing dope, drinking alcohol, and sitting around waiting for you to go to work so they can break into your house. That is not building a livable community. I'll be frank, our home was broken into 8 times. When I grew up in Dominica, we would leave in fact, I don't ever remember locking our door. We had keys. I never remember using our keys. Let me repeat what I just said. When I grew up in Dominica, we had keys. The keys stayed in our mother's bureau, what we call chest of drawers. Reggie, I see you shaking your head. I never, ever once remember using our keys. Lambert, you can maybe chime in and let me know whether that's true. Okay? We'd go down and come back and our home would be fine. So this whole idea of youth leadership, this whole idea of a youth camp, this whole idea of a youth enterprise program is about instilling discipline, instilling the work ethic so that you live by the sweat of your brow. Because if you don't learn that ethic, you're going to break into houses, you're going to do drugs, you're going to join gangs, all of which will undermine our society and our social peace.
Yeah, and anyone else want to chime in at this point? Okay, so we're going to continue because I think Gabe laid out a very good foundation in terms of what the young people need. But again, going back to that enabling environment, because what we are also seeing is we're seeing a number of our young people. We have Tia Lafont, we have Coab Baron, we have this young lady I just interviewed in France who is doing well in ice skating. Her name is Emikai Edmond. So we have the cricketers, we have young men who are on Cricket West Indies right now. So we have all this potential and we're quick to celebrate them, right? We're quick to celebrate them when they succeed, but it begs the question, how are we laying that foundation to double or triple the amount of young people who we are seeing coming out in the area of sports? So how do we rebuild the sports industry? We have so many different opportunities in Dominica that we can build on, yet we don't see all the investment from the Citizen by Investment program. We don't see that going towards building facilities in Dominica. Right now, we see the people of Calibishi are concerned with, the status of the school, where the school is going to be placed in terms of if they will still have a playing field. So there's a lot that we can talk about in terms of engaging the youth, in terms of building that opportunities. But let's keep the conversation going as we talk about the various roles in terms of rebuilding Dominica. So what about the private sector, engaging the private sector? Reggie, you want to comment on that, how we can engage the private sector, whether it is through encouraging them to be sponsors and make donations to rebuild Dominica and the work that you're doing? So not just the various organizations need to be involved, but we also need to have that collaboration with the private sector.
Yes, I mentioned that we need to have that sort of collaboration between the government and the private sector. Now, obviously, the private sectors and those companies that have whatever success they have achieved, they will give some of their time, but they are also in business to make money. Okay, so there need to be some sort of incentive or some balance between how much free time and resource they can give and what they can take away out of that, because the more incentive they have is the more they're going to give to those who are in need of it and collaborate with the government.
Yeah,
because we all want to share the knowledge that we have and pass it on. That's what we want to do. But just giving it away is not always. So we need that balance and some way for there to be some sort of get back from it. Give and take sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And LaDana, that kind of takes us into the importance of mentorship, right? Because I think what we're seeing in terms of what our young people need as well, because it feels like we're lacking role models. When we think of parents having to beg for their daily sustenance, it means that we are lacking role models in many homes in Dominica. I hate to say it, but it's the reality, right? So and I always come back to this example because it is so telling, where Thompson Fountain was trying to motivate this young boy to go to school and learn. And he said to him, why do I have to do this when my mom can just go beg the prime minister for money to support me? I mean, I found that truly frightening. And Gabe, I want to come to you for your thoughts on that. But LaDana, let me come to you and talk about the real need for mentors for our young people.
Yeah, definitely. We need more of that. But we also need it's a bridge, right? You can offer mentorship, but then is the child or is that young adult going to take that opportunity?
Right.
Do they have the parents that see the value of it to press them on? Because at the end of the day, depending on the child's age, the parent has a lot of influence. For example, our daughter, she was one of the youngest volunteers with Rebuild Dominica. And I was talking with Mr. Christian about that earlier this afternoon. And I told him, I said, he's giving her all these praises. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I said, but if you only knew how I had to drag her out of bed on a Saturday morning. And when she got there, she was so happy that she was there. But again, I think you, Simone, mentioned that we can't really blame the youth for what they're doing and how they're moving because they are following their parents. So I know we're talking about youth development, but when we look at it, you have a young adult or a teenager, you have to have their parents' permission, right? In order to mentor them, in order to put them in this program, their parents have to physically sign if they're not an adult yet, right? So I think even before we start with having a youth program, and of course, as I mentioned, we want to hear from the youth and we need to have that permission to do so. I would like to see some type of outreach campaign in order to get the parents involved. Because if we're trying to change a generation and we're trying to change the mentality, we have to work with the people that came before that are leading those children. So it may not be that we just work with just the youth. Now, I will say there are some parents that can see what their child is doing, and then they take that as an initiative, because we can always learn from those younger, just like we learn from our peers, just like we learn from those older. I would like to see some type of PR campaign, to be honest with you, that is, led by I'm sure there's a youth ministry, right? There's some type of, there's got to be. Every Caribbean nation has that.
Yep.
And I would like to see what programs they have, what initiatives they have, that they are, what work are they doing? Because we are a collaborative organization. We can't make change in Dominica. We don't live, a lot of us, in Dominica, and we don't visit Dominica as often as we would like because of the cost, right? So we want to see what's being done, and then we can actually answer that, to be honest with you.
And also we have to meet the youth where they are. They're on social media. So it's almost like we need influencers to show. And I always go back to our young people in the music industry, that they ought to be doing more than just singing and traveling. Yes, that is important. And we're happy that they have the opportunities to travel and earn a living that way. But they also need to play a role in terms of civic responsibility, because when the young people see that you're engaging in activities surrounding civic responsibility, then they are inspired to do as you do. So it's all bridges that we have to link together.
And this is why I mentioned it needs to be a campaign. There
Mhm.
needs to be a campaign. It can't just be one organization or several organizations. It needs to be a campaign between a ministry, the youth ministry in Dominica, and the people that are on island that want to help the youth. So, because they're going to have to meet somewhere, right? Or they're going to have some type of technology or Zoom or whatever set up, right? And then the diaspora can come in. I know that we are here, we're willing, we're able, but there's only so much we can do. Our hands are pretty much tied. For example, and I hate to bring this up, but I have to kind of be honest right now. When we sent the container of medical supplies and equipment, it was it was really a challenge. We're trying to give away free medical supplies and equipment right after Hurricane Maria. Why is it a challenge for us to get the things out? Why are things expiring? Because we cannot clear whatever red tape has been set up because we didn't go through whoever's channel. We're trying it's like the Red Cross or UNICEF sends a container. They send a container to Dominica after a disaster. That should be, in my opinion, priority one to get it out. You understand? And
Mhm.
we're giving something that's needed, something that probably could save lives, and some things were spoiling in warehouses, from my understanding,
Mhm.
because it was a roadblock. I don't know what the block was. So again, we can only do but so much, and we have to have ministry involvement. We're just
Yeah.
going to, because even to get things out on the airwaves, even to get things on a wider level through social media, we're going to have to get the ministry involved. And that's my honest opinion. There needs to be a campaign.
Yeah, and we also need to learn to think outside of the box. Because when there's a hurricane, yes, we know there are rules and regulations for importing things into Dominica. But after a category 4 or 5 hurricane, where organizations are trying to expedite supplies into Dominica, there should be some kind of leeway to relax the rules and regulations at the port to get the supplies to the people before, like you say, they're expired. But Gabriel, I want to come to you because you mentioned the Each One Teach One mentorship program where professionals and business people can go to the school and share knowledge. And thank you for sending me the civic leadership handbook. But I really want your thoughts, Gabriel, on that comment that young man made to Dr. Thompson Fontaine, because I think it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes on many, many different levels. And I think it is like a plague that's infesting itself. This young man spoke for hundreds of other young men and women in Dominica. And that is what is concerning to me. So, what are your thoughts on that? And then I also want to talk about rebuilding Dominica with regards to investing the citizen by investment programs. What is a strategic plan? What would that look like? And I would like everyone to contribute to that. So think about where can we inject the funds where it would make the most impact. So I want all of us to start thinking about that now that we've had some experience with rebuilding Dominica. So where can we invest the monies that have been brought in from the CBI program so that it has the most impact on the lives of Dominica? But first, Gabriel, I want you to comment
Let
on
me,
what that young man said.
it's tragic. And I'm going to have to leave because I'm still at work. I have a meeting in the next few
Oh
minutes.
my.
So I'll leave our president, vice president to conclude.
Right.
And I want to thank you again and thank
Yes,
all those who
thank
made
you.
our
Thank you,
journey possible.
Gabriel.
But let me say this. It's tragic, but it's something we can recover from. If all people could go through slavery and colonialism and survive, we could go through this social dislocation based on bad examples. I frankly want to have nothing to do with the CBI as it's currently constituted. It's been nothing more than a platform for highway robbery of our nation's money and the destruction of our reputation. So I have nothing to do with it. Dominicans, with the intelligence we have at home and abroad working together, we could turn our country into a real paradise. But that would require us to be sincere, honest, and kind. It would require us, for instance, as professionals in and out of Dominica. So if you go to Dominica on a holiday, take one day Take one day out of that, or maybe even not one day, one couple hours, and visit a school. Make a little donation to the library. Give a little presentation and maintain a contact with that school for future support, preferably through organizations like Rebuild Dominica or the Dominican community organization that you would have founded. I want to say something about LaDana. Reggie, of course, has been there from the outset, but let me say about LaDana. When the storm took place, we went to a function. I don't know how she got the information at Howard University. And the first person there was LaDana and her little daughter, who, by the way, now is a college graduate and is an author who's been on CBS News and NBC News and all of that. She was there. And then later on at a park in the DC suburbs with her master, Charles, she had a wob duet and she was collecting tickets for a raffle. I didn't know she had a struggle to get out of bed, but she was there and she was enjoying it. And we became family friends. So when you volunteer your time, you meet like-minded people, people of high moral value, people who are like-minded, people who are willing to share. So Reggie has been family before, but bigger family, LaDana family, because of volunteerism, right? So Reggie and I were not just working as business people, but we were working in community. Now, the mentorship program, dentists, professionals, nurses, lawyers, business people, they can adopt a school and have some students come through their business. They don't have to maybe pay them a minimum wage, maybe just have it be where they get a certificate of being involved in a mentorship program. That kind of sharing of one's life skills helps young people to live better lives. And so you can get away from that dependency syndrome, the beggarism that you talked about, and we can have a better society. So I'm very optimistic. I'm very happy that we have a Simon Matthew in our lives, so we can push past 10, push past 20, push past 30. You know what I mean? I'm very happy with Brother Lambert. I'm very happy and feel great love from Sister LaDana and Brother Reggie. And I think we have the kind of relationships that we can encourage other Dominicans to have. So we can build a kinder, gentler, and better Dominica. And we can rebuild the moral fabric of our nation. That I do believe. And I think it's a huge blessing that before we check out, just tonight coming in, Dinsdale Lawrence, St. Mary's Academy Cadet Sergeant, died of a heart attack in his 60s in London. He was a cadet with me. He was ahead of me. Just got the news. His brother was just with us last year. So life is short, brothers and sisters. And we have to use all time on earth to help each other, because when we check out, that's about all that will be left of us, the pleasant memories of the contributions we made. Nobody will worry about the car we drove or the big house that we had or the fancy watch that we wore, or the gold chain around our neck, or that mansion on the hill. No, they will remember the love that we shared, the honest effort we gave, and the memory of service we left behind. God bless you all. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes. And thank you so much, Gabriel, for introducing us to Rebuild Dominica Inc., for your passion and your commitment to Dominica. And I think I echo your sentiments that we are eternally optimistic. Because we have to be optimistic, because we know what Dominica was and we know it can become even greater.
Again, indeed.
Yes,
God bless
yes.
you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
God bless you. Off
All
to
right,
work.
thank you. Thank you.
God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Yes. So LaDana and Reggie, with the last few minutes that we have, I just want us to kind of wrap our minds around a little strategic plan, right? So if we had to envision the way forward to rebuilding Dominica, what are some of the thoughts that immediately come to mind as a priority in terms of rebuilding Dominica? So let's just create a little bit of a strategic plan. And then Facebook, I want to come over because I'm seeing the great comments you're making. So I'll be sure to come over and take some of your comments.
Well, for myself, I would say education.
Yes.
So what we're doing on our end is our part. We have the applications that we will be releasing through our contacts in Dominica, Simeon Joseph, and we're going to be working with him and his team on island in order to select 2 students to qualify for the scholarship to Piney Woods, the boarding school in Mississippi. Again, that's a value of, gosh, you can't really put a value on education, but the tuition itself is between 30 to 40,000 US dollars for the year. So we have that, and then as I mentioned, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore um, has a program, and anyone can just Google to find out about that. There are certain grants or scholarships or incentives for international students, and Dominicans, through the collaboration of Gabriel Christian, are able to benefit from that established program. That's something that's already established, and the Piney Woods School is a very established school as well. I encourage you to Google. It's Piney, Piney. So the Piney School, the Piney Woods School. That's two words, Piney Woods. So for myself, I just feel as though teaching someone to be self-sustainable, teaching someone how to articulate what they need, because I am a firm believer of closed mouths do not get fed, and we're not so none of us are telepathic. We don't read minds. I want to encourage a dialogue. My vision for Dominica would be the education piece, but also the art of articulating what is needed in an honest fashion, in a fashion where there's not an argument. Just as a reminder, Rebuild Dominica is nonpartisan. So the questions that we've been answering this evening are our honest answers as individuals, and we don't pick and choose sides. We've never been that way. Anyone that knows 501c3 nonprofit organizations in the U.S., the goal, the focus should be aid to all. There shouldn't be any specific party or any specific group that gets to benefit.
Yes, we have a call coming in, so let's take the call, and then Reggie will come over to you.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for your patience. Are you still there?
Yeah, good evening there.
Please
good
go ahead.
Good evening to the members and members, fireman touching base. I'd like to put my little 2 cents. Everybody
Yes,
there
please
is
do.
and go to school. I go to Marcus Garvey and King Selassie High School, but anyhow, back to the program. No, I
Yes.
know whole heap of thing. Remember, this is my country. I love my country. I love and respect everybody right now there, because we have to defend the country no matter what. No, my problem I have now, really and truly, right? I find to myself, once upon a time, people I don't call it Dominica, because Dominica doesn't have a problem in my brain. I prefer to say Dominica, because 365 rivers is a tropical island, a mountainous island, a agricultural island, which is a great country in the Western Hemisphere. Anyhow, what I find, once upon a time, people used to work and create for themselves. But what happened now, a certain time I find people start to realize, and politicians, and there the problem starts. And the next problem we have in this country, I realize that for the country to move, politicians really can't move the country. A lot of people in the country, as I say, Rivernica, even out of Rivernica, they have a lot of finance. And they're not financing nothing positive in the country to elevate the country and to elevate people in the country. Right? Why is it depending on politicians to do so much? You know what I'm saying? Now, the next problem we have, once upon a time, agriculture always decreased. You know that. But what we realize now, in a new era, now everybody in the rural areas now, they have jacket and tie, they have GC, they have O-level. So people turn their back on the soil. So there we have a problem. Get it straight. You know what I'm saying? No matter what people say and do, unless humans struggle and human cannot put the all into it by human action for things to happen, talk cannot bring us nowhere. And there's where we have a problem, because I say again, it's an agricultural country, a great country, but because everybody have education, everybody qualifying with a jacket and tie, they well dressed and they shining, they up and running. So they turn their back on the soil. But I say to myself now, as a person that don't go no high school, no school at all, I don't wear jacket and tie, but I go to Marcus Garvey School and Haile Selassie High School. So what I'm saying now, even you have all this education, all this qualification, we could still go to the soil and continue to even know, and we could have created some little factories and different things, because why the educated now, they're more qualified. Because agriculture is another thing you have to go and practice or learn to do, is a thing that's naturally in us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think to myself, our problem have been the Caribbean well and truly. And have a new thing calling now, a job they call crack and cocaine, which is mashing up the whole Caribbean. And everybody think that is the way to go and that is the way to live. When you destroy humanity, your country cannot get nowhere. Because there are a lot of men and empresses and kings who could do so much in the country, working at a good position, and because of that thing, right now you cannot trust them in your place, even around the area. So anyway, I have so much thing to say, but I know somebody have to call because really and truly I'm listening here to the youngest wife. And I really love to give my 2 cents. You know what I'm saying? So the problem we have right now, we humanity, human being in the country, for us country to move, every one of us have a responsibility and every one of us have a right. If we cannot do it, somebody going to do it for us. And if we keep on talking and blaming that one and this one, and don't do what we have to do, make our money stick. Let's try to create. Let's do more things with our money. People from Rivanica who make the money, try to invest to elevate your people and your country. Up and running, fireman running, bless up, give thanks for life.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Fireman, for your contribution. And you're so right. We all have a role to play. We all have a responsibility. So if we all come together, we can make Dominica great. But Reggie, let me come over to you. If we were creating a simple strategic plan, the priorities for Dominica right now.
Yeah, LaDana mentioned education, and when you asked the question before, that was one of my thoughts. The other thing I see or don't see or trying to understand, where are our role models to help the young person? When I remember growing up, there were a few. I mean, you had Alwyn Bully, you had Afi Martin, you had Rosie Douglas. Even in the sports, you had Rocket Shabassin, Irving Chillingford, and those kind of persons that when we grow up, we were aspiring to become. I want to be like this person and that person. But and I'm not sure that is there anymore. And our young persons are lost. They have no direction, no sense of direction, don't know where to go. So we need to create a way to how we can corral everybody and sort of create some kind of, steer them along, a path of prosperity. That's something I think is what's needed.
Yeah, and that's where it starts. It really starts with, what are we living for our young people? How are we investing in their future? Go ahead, Lami. Thank you, Reggie, for that.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead with your call.
Good night. Some leaders don't like to hear tech is going to destroy Dominica. There's parrot, the soul parrot. It destroyed all over at Dominica. It destroys some. They said families has been, and the supporters don't like to hear that because they are slave supporters. That's all about it.
Yes, thank you for that, caller. Yeah, so we have quite a bit of comments on Facebook. So guys, thank you so much for your contribution to the program. Like we said before, let's see. So Anthony Simon says, making sure the citizens are given first priority to contract and job assignments. Absolutely true, because we see a lot of the projects that are ongoing in Dominica, the Chinese are employing their own, and it's leaving a vacuum in terms of employment for our young people, especially our young men. So important that we're able to provide jobs and opportunities, especially for our young people, because they are the future of Dominica. Ragadu Godo says the only role the Labour government can play to help Dominica is to step down, get out of the way, and let fresh, innovative, and progressive minds to take over. They failed miserably. So thank you everyone for your comments as they're coming in. James Stiphen, good night to all. Nice to have you on board. Alison Peltier, always great to see you. Vocational programs would be great where young men and women are taught trades like plumbing, electrical, etc. Petra Carbon George, we can try to do the training online using the resource centers in various communities to facilitate youth without internet access. Excellent points, guys. Thank you so much for all the contributions. Ahmed Thomas, great to see you. The funds, the most impact in specialized skill training program and funding for returning citizen. Taizi LaRose says, I have a student in my class make the same statement to me when I was encouraging him to take his work seriously. He said, Miss, why should I learn so much when I already have my job waiting for me in NEP? Just as my power rep, I good. Sad reality. So like I mentioned before, that one young man that Thompson was trying to motivate, is a representative of so many other young people who are learning what they're seeing around them. That in order to make it in life, all you need to do is beg. You don't need to get an education. You don't need to get a job. And that is truly unfortunate. Petra also says, great point, Mr. Christian. We can contribute by visiting the school while we visit Dominica, especially the specialized personnel. Veronica Pascal, thank you for the encouragement to move forward to a better Dominica. Amma says we have a lot of intelligence. However, if you look at the average person on Facebook, how we talk to each other, it shows disunity even among diasporans. A young lady, Petra Carbon, asked the question, what would we want to see in order to go home? I responded, nothing, because I believe we need to invest in Dominica ourselves. We keep waiting for people at home to make a change, but we are all Dominicans. We need to come together with positive energy that can vibrate outward and harness others towards. Okay, I'm not sure. I can't see the rest of your comment, but thank you, Amma. So let's try to take a comment from someone we haven't heard from. So we have Mr. Clarence Christian. Clarence, welcome to the program. Tuition of 30 to 40 US per year. Imagine government having over 100 students in 1 year in Midwestern State University. Yes, Clarence, you're absolutely true that we have all the students at Midwestern State University. I'm very proud alumni of Midwestern State University. But Clarence, also please remember that that same government owes Midwestern State University millions of dollars in scholarship tuition that it should have paid. So now we have a lot of students at Midwestern State University and other universities that are now in limbo because their tuition is not being paid, and it's in the million, and it is embarrassing. As a former student of Midwestern State University, Clarence Christian, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. This is absolutely embarrassing. So, you are absolutely correct, but let's get the information straight here. We have Laugh Out New. A young woman was badly insulted today by the leader of a political party. Okay, so we're not talking about anything that doesn't relate to the topic. Let's see. All right, so let's carry on. We're going to focus on what we're talking about. Lang. What a name. We're not going to say the rest of that name. The strategic plan for development and revitalization in various areas of Dominica, categorizing them by their potential for economic growth and activity. Red zones, highest priority, Portsmouth, Newtown, Roseau South, Scott's Head, Granby. Frances Ansem is locked in on YouTube. Let's see, we have Alyssa Irish. Dr. Fireman is constantly controversial as he ends the call. He on the other radio station bashing. I know you know on what side of the fence he is. Don't let him fool you. So, Alistair, we appreciate every caller's opinion, whether they choose to go on another radio station or not. It's their prerogative, but we appreciate everyone's contribution. So, Facebook, YouTube, thank you so much for your great contribution. And of course, our callers and everyone who listens silently. So as we get ready to wrap up the program, is that a phone call, Lambi? I can see your hand. We have a call?
Yes, we do have a late caller. Caller, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hey, good night, Lambert.
Good night.
Okay, good night to Simon Matthew and the guests on the
Good
program.
evening. Good night.
I just want to bring a small presentation to your program, Miss Matthew.
Yes.
I've been listening to your program for a while now, but I'm getting a little bit tired sometimes because I find even on the government side sometimes I try to come across. I find we need to get some more positivity. I heard Mr. Christian speak a while ago about the youth camp and all the movements. I remember those days. And even in the movements of Mr. Libel and Patrick John and coming up to Rosie Douglas, these people form a lot of organizations like the Farmers Market. Even Rosie Douglas, he wasn't in government, but at the time, I remember he gets some help, I think, from Guyana, and then with Afimata, they had buy a boat, a big boat transporting Dominic agriculture produce to the Caribbean island.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard Mr. Christian talk about Olive Group. One of the things I believe Olive is supposed to do in the first place is focus within Olive Group and try to get some small equipment that could help the small manufacturing people on the island, like the people that are doing processing, because they're out there. Some of them are using high technology like soda light, hydraulic air and those things, and try to get it somehow into the island and start to get the people that are doing manufacturing together. Because we will speak, and then I don't find you getting no result. And I personally is a small manufacturing person on the island. But you get no result, not from the opposition, not from much of the government. Yes, I heard the Prime Minister, them had some symposium for women, but you're not getting no benefit from it. Even in the bank, they have the money there, and it's for some people. And I find we are getting nowhere. We just not getting nowhere. And I myself into that. And I'm getting tired because you're not getting the financial help. You have marketing. You are asking the government for that old Barracoon building close to the bayfront by the ferry terminal, and we're just not getting no result. And other people are speaking and they're not getting no result. So I don't know what we can do to make it better. I would just like to see even us individuals could organize ourselves better.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, caller. I certainly feel your frustration. And I think what is important to note here is many times we talk about, oh, there's too much talking. So that is why I pride myself on bringing people and organizations that are doing, because it has to take more than just the talk is absolutely important, because everything transpires out of the conversations. So we cannot ignore the importance of the talking. The talking is important, the contribution of the callers and the guests of various programs. But personally, for me, I am about action. So this is why you will notice that many of my programs, it is about people and organizations that are doing the work to advance Dominica. So it has to be a balance. So I think, you're absolutely right that we have to go beyond the talking. And that is what we're doing right here on Roots Connections. We're showing the action, and how can that action be emulated by others so that maybe someone listening can take the action and help you with the manufacturing equipment that you are requesting. But thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution to the discussion this evening. So final thoughts, Reggie, let's go with you as we wind down the program. And then LaDana, let's make sure we have the email address, the contact information, so we can share it with the audience. So Reggie, again, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Simone and LaDana and Gabe and everyone who contributed to this program tonight. And I echo some of the sentiments of the callers. Everyone seemed to be. It's a lot of talking and no action. They want to see some things happen. And what we are at Rebuild Dominica about is about doing. And so we will continue our crusade and do what we're doing for Dominica, and bigger and better as we move, and gather some more support from other industries, persons, everyone, however we can do it. And because at the end of it, it's all about our people, our country, our legacy, our Dominica.
Yes, absolutely. LaDana, let's head over to you for your final thoughts.
So I appreciate the last caller, and I believe, based off of the what the caller was mentioning about the talking, they may have missed the things that we actually have already done, the very significant things that Rebuild Dominica has already done. But I do believe the last caller was speaking in a general sense, and there's a lot of talk. A lot of times there's a lot of talk, and as you said, Simone, we have to have that conversation, and it can get frustrating. But if we don't have the conversation, we're not organized. So, and in regards to reaching out to us, again, the website is rebuilddominica.org. At this time, we don't share our email publicly. because there's a potential for spam. But there is a contact form on our website, a contact page, and you can submit the form. And the board of directors, we all get copies, and we respond as needed based off of the resources that might be available. And if we need follow up, we definitely follow up. So I would just encourage the listeners to go to rebuilddominica.org and then look for the contact page. If you have any questions for us, if you have any suggestions for us, we're open to that as well.
And guys, don't forget, if you missed any portion of the program, once the program ends, you can always go back and watch the video on Facebook and YouTube. So again, that is YouTube and Facebook is Q95 FM Radio and Push Past 10 on Facebook as well. And I posted the website again. If you're listening, it's www.rebuilddominica.org. And if you're interested in getting in touch with them, you simply click on the button that says Contact Us. It is at the top of the page. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. Lammy, thank you for taking the calls. LaDana, Reggie, Gabriel, thank you for being our esteemed guest this evening on this program as we talked about opportunities to rebuild Dominica and what should be our priority and what Rebuild Dominica is doing to advance Dominica. So I want to thank you for joining us for our #1 program for showcasing the people, the projects, the initiatives which are geared towards moving Dominica forward, especially as it relates to financial opportunity. Because again, so many of us are doing great things, but we're doing it behind the scenes. So here on Push Past 10 and Roots Connections, we are committed to showcasing and promoting those who are doing the work to move Dominica forward. In this way, we can invite everyone in the audience to join in these initiatives and projects to help to build that human capacity needed to move Dominica forward. And we have several ongoing projects that we're very happy are in the pipeline. One of them is, we're following in the footsteps of the Dominica Arts and Science Academy, and we're doing a database to pull in the information of all the professionals in Dominica around the world and building that network that we need to advance Dominica. So we're working on several things. We also have are interested in people who are working on innovative ideas. We had one lady on Push Past 10 the other day, and she's created a service where now, no matter where in the world, you're able to renew your Dominica passport. From outside of Dominica, you're able to get your birth certificates. You're able to get any official documents. So these are some of the ideas and projects we're interested in promoting. So we currently have a video. It's on pushpast10.com. So again, www.pushpast10.com if you would like to see her interview. And I will be sure to have her on Roots Connections as we talk about innovative businesses geared towards moving Dominica. So remember, follow Push Past 10, follow Q95 FM Radio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we want to thank everyone for being here. We want to hear from you. So if you too are doing some project initiative, and again, I just want to thank everyone because, we constantly have people reaching out to me via email who are saying, this is a great guest for your program. This is a great guest for your program. So again, all the importance of that supportive community. So if you have an idea or you want to support any of the initiatives that we're doing, you can reach me at pushpast10@gmail.com. So that is pushpast10@gmail.com. We want to thank Mr. G and the Q95 family for the opportunity to be here. Again, Lambi, thank you so much for all the work that you do. And again, we explored this evening current and future changes needed to rebuild Dominica. And we want to thank Rebuild Dominica, Inc. for joining us and for all the great work that they are doing for the community. So again, thank you guys for being here. We look forward to being in your company. March 27th is the next time we will be on the program. And thank you everyone for your great contributions to the conversation. LaDana says, great conversation. Thank you for providing this platform for Rebuild Dominica Group. and Rebuild Dominica, the nonprofit. So, guys, thank you for being here. Have yourself a wonderful evening and a great rest of your week. So, with that, we say good night and see you again soon. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you.
Joe! Rastafari. Oh.